Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. You are now listening to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow!
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Adam McChesney, and I want to thank you for being here today. If you're listening, please be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We would love for you to share this on social media by tagging me and our guests, and this way we can get this incredible content out to more people. Today, we have another great episode lined up for you. My guest and I got connected earlier this year on LinkedIn, and she reached out saying that she had listened to a few of our episodes. I then looked at her profile and saw some amazing things that she has done and continues to do. So I wanted to have her on as a guest, and I'm excited for the audience to learn more about her and myself to learn more as well. This guest is a resilience expert. She is the author of Greater Fortune, the entrepreneur who bought the company that fired her. She's a keynote speaker, business consultant, and entrepreneur. Today's guest is Dr. Marie Cosgrove. Dr. Cosgrove, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here on your program.
Super excited. You have a very interesting, from what I can tell, a very interesting background. And obviously, I know the name of the book, so very interested to dive into your entrepreneurial journey. So we love to give our guests a little bit of history on our guests and compare our guests to that of the beer brewing process. So if you could let our audience know who you are, what you do, and what got you here, that would be a phenomenal place for us to start.
Okay. Well, I grew up, I'm going to start with my backstory, which I didn't used to ever share. And you being in medical sales, we have the same background. You kind of get this because when I was in the medical sales, I'm still in the healthcare industry, but when I was doing the sales, I never shared this. But I'm a product of rape. I was born to a mentally disabled single mom, and she was in a car accident. And that resulted in her being in a coma for several months. They said there was no way she was going to make it. They were going to pull the plug. But she opened her eyes. She had to learn how to walk, talk, do everything all over again. And during her recovery, she was raped, which resulted in my birth. And so from the beginning, I had to have that resilience to come into this world because I had so much adversity being thrown at me. So I was raised by a single mom, no dad, and on top of that, poverty, and she suffered from schizophrenia. And so along with that comes all of the trauma, childhood trauma stuff. And the reason I bring this up, and I'm not afraid to bring this up in my entrepreneurial journey, is because a lot of the lessons that I learned actually have to do with how I was raised, what I went through. Because a lot of times in business, a lot of things that hold people back are their past. And a lot of times I hear business owners or entrepreneurs say, you know what, the past doesn't matter. My childhood doesn't matter. And they hide behind who they were. They work really hard to become super successful. And they don't want anybody to know anything else. But inside, there's something that's holding them back, and that's holding them back from becoming who they can be. They can take their business to an even bigger level, but because of that situation, it holds them back. And that's why I shared that with you.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I think it definitely kind of gives the audience and probably anybody that's listening a much better understanding of your story, your background, and what got you to where you're at. And so I appreciate you diving into that. And so tell us some of the things that you're working on right now, some of the things that, you speak on. Obviously, you talked about the resilience, but give us a little bit of background about the book as well. I think that's really cool.
Sure. So I do keynote speaking for corporations, nonprofit organizations, and I do consulting with them as well as small businesses and individuals in order to increase profitability, productivity, and to maintain a resilient mindset. And so my book, it is called Greater Fortune, Essential Lessons from the Entrepreneur Who Bought the Company That Fired Her. And in my book, I share lessons and guides to help you to build that resiliency and to help you gain your greater fortune. So I do cover a lot from my experience of what I've learned from being fired as a single mom of 4 kids, dad lost parental rights due to domestic violence. So I share a little bit about that. But I share about how I was able to start a new company, scale that, and then buy the company that fired me. Now, a lot of people thought, when I bought the company, that was over a decade ago. And everybody thought I would bankrupt myself and the company within 6 months. Now, today, we're the leader in our industry. Every hospital in Hong Kong has our device. We're in our U.S. military, Vanderbilt, Mayo Clinic, Yale, Dartmouth, University of Miami. All the prestigious universities and hospitals have our equipment, as well as clinicians that have to deal with dizziness, balance disorders, and traumatic brain injury, like what my mom had to go through. So amazing. I do share that. And I feel it's important. The reason I decided to start doing consulting, because people kept asking me, you need to share how you bought the company that fired you. And I felt what's necessary for me to share the strategies that got me to where I'm at today. And then people started asking me, can you consult with me? Well, you being in medical sales, I started out in medical sales. You understand how important consulting is. That's what helped me to become an effective salesperson, because I wasn't just selling, I was actually consulting. And I've had doctors tell me my practice is $1 million practice because of you. I remember one doctor who, when I sold him his first device, he only had one exam room. And it was him and his wife, who was the receptionist. And today they have 20 doctors working for them. And they took me through a tour of their facility. And they said, this wouldn't have happened without you and all the consulting that you gave us. And that's how I was so successful in sales. So I help companies, if they need to train their salespeople, I help them train their salespeople so they can become more resilient and they can learn to be effective in sales, not just one-off or not just for a short period. Because, in medical sales, it's very common to have a salesperson that they're hugely successful and then that's it. The sales that they made, those customers never want to call them again because they did a poor job. They did a great job selling. They did a terrible job building that relationship. And for me, the reason why I was so successful is because I was able to maintain that relationship. So a lot of our sales come from word of mouth, simply because we provide we consult with them and find out what their needs are. And we provide, more than just here's a device or here's a tool. Now, our device is not for everyone. It's by prescription only, and it's very specialized, but you can still take those same principles into any business. And so I've helped businesses from nonprofits to financial organizations to, healthcare clinics, retail. I've helped them grow their businesses using these strategies.
Appreciate you sharing all that. I'm literally thinking, I'm like, if there is a picture and a story tied to the definition of resilience in the dictionary, like that's your story. Like that is just so amazing to hear, just literally all of this stuff. So I appreciate you sharing all that. Talking a little bit as we kind of shift the interview here, going into key ingredients that have made you successful. So I know you talked about consulting. I know you talked about some of that stuff, but what are 3 things that have made you successful in your journey thus far?
So one of the first things is thankfulness. And being thankful for being alive. There's always something to be thankful and grateful for. I didn't always see it that way. And that's why I shared my backstory with you, because in my family, in my culture, we were raised to, you protect the family name no matter what. You don't talk about any of this. If I was living with an aunt and uncle, they would tell me, we're your parents. You just tell the kids at school that we're your parents, even though they weren't. And the same thing, no matter where I went, it was hush, hush. Don't talk about your mom. Don't talk about, and I lived with my mom on the weekends, and I grew up, the first 5 years of my life were living with my mom. So it was very hard to compartmentalize that. And it was a huge burden for me. And when I was able to share my truth and realize that life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. And sometimes out of adversity, we experience the most beautiful miracles. And I learned to shift my focus from, I went through this tragic situation. I shouldn't have been here. I'm a mistake. I'm a bastard child. To just hating life, hating being here. And wanting no one to ever know about my backstory. So in business, I was hugely successful, but I came to the realization that it was all empty, because deep down inside, I still felt that my success stemmed from my success in business, and my value as a person came from my success in business. And that's not true. And I think that's so important, especially as an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, you're going to go through ups and downs. And if you don't value yourself as a person when you're down, you're going to feel like you're worthless. But your value doesn't come from your success in business. You can have $1 billion in the bank, or $1 billion worth of, your business can be worth $1 billion. Or you can have nothing. You can lose it all overnight, which has happened to a lot of millionaires lately. They've lost everything. You still have value. You still have purpose. So it's so important to understand that. And so I came to the realization that I did have value, that there was a purpose for me. And for me, that comes from my faith. But even if you're not a person of faith, science has proven that there is no one like you. You're in the healthcare field, that we have scanners that can scan your heartbeat. Everybody has a very unique energy signal from your heartbeat. Everybody's heartbeat is unique. There's no one like you. You are not replaceable. I know when I was growing up, I started my first job. I was working for a financial institution, and trainers will come in. They would say, you're replaceable. You're replaceable. You better, walk the line. You better do what you're told because you're replaceable. The reality is you're not replaceable. No, if you're gone today, there's no one who can replace you. And if you learn to value your employees as an entrepreneur, it's very expensive to fire someone, have to hire someone, have to train them. We don't realize the cost to your organization in time and resources, and financially, it's going to hit your bottom line. It is, your company will be much more successful if you have loyal employees and you have long-term employees. And right now we live in a society where employees are told, hey, you want to stick to a job for 2 years only, get another job so you can keep getting raises. But what if you're able to keep that employee long-term? Your clients are going to appreciate that, because your employees are going to be like family. I know them. Like our customers, they know our customer service people. They know them by name. Oh, I talked to so-and-so. How are they doing? And they feel comfortable with them, because I've had the same employees since I bought the company, pretty much, except for one or two that I had to. I mean, sometimes you've got to let someone go, right? Yeah. Because then they're going to hurt your bottom line. But if you invest in your most valuable asset, your employees, and you're able to provide them with what their needs are, and you're able, and sometimes it's hard. Entrepreneurs, especially when they're getting started, they're like, how am I going to keep an employee full time? I can't afford to compete against, a Fortune 500 company that's going to offer them this. Well, find out what is it that they are passionate about. And you'd be surprised how you would be able to fulfill that for them, and they would become very loyal employees. Because I have employees that have been offered more money, but they stay with me because I offer flexible hours, or I offer 3-week vacations, which most companies don't offer the first year. They get a full 3 weeks. They get other benefits that other companies can't compete with. And it's just by finding out, what is it that drives them? And I try to put them in a position that's going to help them achieve their passion.
Love
so,
that.
That's, going back to being grateful. So it started there, being grateful for who I am, being grateful for being alive and thankful. And it helped me to realize that, everyone has value. So when I look at my employees, I don't look at them as they're just an employee. I look at them as they have value. They matter. This person is important, not only to me, to what they're contributing to the world. And they're helping. We've impacted over 2.5 million patients to date. So they themselves are also impacting patients, because without them, we wouldn't have a diagnostic tool and a treatment device that would help patients like my mom that suffered from traumatic brain injury or balance disorders. That's the first lesson was, being thankful, being grateful. And there's always something you can be thankful for. I remember being fired as a single mom with 4 kids, no one to fall back on. And I was just thankful that I had, the experience. I had built relationships with doctors, clinicians, and with a whole group of, different people that they became my friends and they were very loyal to me. So when I started a new company in a totally different field, they were there to support me. And, it wasn't easy. Of course, nothing's easy, but I had to lose a job before that. I had been working for a Fortune 500 company and I had 4 kids, single mom, domestic violence situation, earning a great living. And I had to leave that. So I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost everything. I had to start all over again. And I was thankful that, you know what? Yeah, we lost everything, but you know what? We're no longer in danger. We're safe now. Mm-hmm. We're in a healthy spot now because no one's going to hurt us again, even though financially we lost it all. And so I had to go through that a second time when I got fired and I have my 4 kids. But by that point, I remembered, you know what? I've gone through this. I'm going to be able to overcome. We're going to get through this. And that helped me build the resiliency and the belief in myself to start a new company, get FDA clearance. And then we did so well that the company that fired me contacted me and said, are you interested in investing in our organization? And that's how I ended up buying the company that fired me.
What a story. I just love it. There's so many valuable pieces of information and insight there. Like you talk about the employee aspect, and I think everybody's like, I can't find good employees, or everybody's looking for the next raise and they're just job hopping from one thing to the next. And a lot of people just miss the point, as you mentioned, is if people feel like they're valued, if they can see the impact that they're having and understand the impact that they're having with inside the organization that, as you mentioned, is impacting so many lives. And there's other things that are not just monetarily, whether it's PTO and vacation, whether it's some type of benefit, it's the flexible work environment. Those are the things that, especially as the economy and all these different things are changing, those are the things that people really care about. Because what we have really lost over the last couple of years since the pandemic is that human element and the relationship building and getting connected with people. So I love that you started talking about that. I love the gratefulness and practicing gratitude, especially with where you've been and where you're at and everything in between. So I'm interested to know, of all the different things, like if you had to pinpoint one lesson, if you're like, Adam, this is the one lesson I would give to an entrepreneur that, whether they're just getting started or they've been doing this for a while, that could save them years worth of mistakes, what would that one lesson be? Well,
I was going to get to the second one because I talked about gratitude. The second one was forgiveness. And I think it would be forgiveness because the one thing I get asked, the number one question I get asked when I do a keynote is, were you able to forgive the people that fired you? And did you fire them? That's like, did you fire them? I'm like, no. And I was able to forgive. It's like, why not? Well, because we had the same vision. We had the same purpose. And the same purpose for the clinical team was to help patients. That was the number one thing. They just didn't understand the business aspect. So I think forgiveness is so important. And it is so important in business because in business, it's especially in healthcare, it's a cutthroat environment. In healthcare, it's like the wild, wild west. In some areas, it's crazy. So forgiveness is key because when you learn to look at people with value, that they have purpose, you stop looking at your competitors as competition and stop worrying about them. Instead, you start competing against yourself. And so what I did was, forgiveness doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt or that what happened to you, you are not going to forget. I mean, you may remember for the rest of your life, but forgiveness means you hold no grudges. You hold no vengeance. If a competitor takes a client away from you or an employee does something that they shouldn't have done, you're not going to want to seek retribution against them. And you're able to let that go. When you're able to let that go, you're going to feel more free and you're going to have the energy to be able to work on the things that are important. And that is competing against yourself. Too many times as entrepreneurs, what are they doing? We're so focused on what everybody else is doing. We're not focused on what we should be doing. What are your strengths? What are your skill sets? What do you bring to the marketplace that is unique, that is uniquely you, that nobody else can offer? Focus on that. And you will go so far, because I'm going to share this with you and how important this is, the forgiveness part. So when I started the other company and I got FDA clearance on it, we dominated the market. We grew so quickly. It was phenomenal. But one of the distributors was just full of bitterness, full of, he didn't value people. And so he went to the competitor and said, hey, I'll give you all their trade secrets. I'm not happy there. You sue them. I'll give you everything. I'll stay with a company. And once we take them down, we'll own and dominate the market and you can get rid of her. I didn't find out about this until this. So they filed this lawsuit, patent infringement lawsuit. And patent infringement lawsuit, if you don't hire an attorney to defend yourself, they win. You have to hire an attorney to defend yourself. So patent attorneys are crazy expensive, especially in the healthcare field for patent attorneys. Now, we had our own patent, so it made no sense. It was a frivolous lawsuit. On top of that, they filed it 6 months before, letting us know, distributing it to all of our clients. And a lot of clients, doctors that are foreigners, they don't know, and they're saying lies like, they violated our patent, they're going to go under. And if you buy their equipment, you're going to owe the government, like crazy stuff. And you can look it up. It's all court documented because it sounds crazy.
But it happened.
But the court documents are out there. So anyway, long story short, his idea was, I'm going to get all her trade secrets, his trade secrets. They'll be in a lawsuit. They will both go under and I will dominate the market. Okay. So after 2 years, millions of dollars that I spent in this lawsuit, he infiltrated one of my engineers, got our source code. The other company ended up at the end of the day, everybody lost because the other company, they got shut down by FDA. Then the owner died. He died of cancer. And then, by this, we had like all our resources gone to that. And then we lost our source code. Then the guy got involved with some other organization doing the same kind of thing, but they were defrauding the federal government. So he got indicted by the Department of Justice for defrauding the government for $24 million. All this is public record. So at the end of the day, all of those resources that could have been used to just legitimately, hey, you know what? I really love what you're doing. I want to have my own company. We could have done something together, but instead, these other guys just destroyed themselves and their companies. They went under. And what's sad is that the competitor had been in business for over 20 years. And they went under business, and they're not in business today, which is very, very sad. But the point is, forgiveness is so important. Now, I could have allowed me losing all of this, because it's huge to lose like a business you build from the ground up.
Oh, yeah.
And you build it to millions and millions of dollars, to lose that. I could have allowed that to destroy myself as well. But you know what? I'm like, you know what? God's already judged this. And he did. This guy already got in trouble with Department of Justice. No longer in the healthcare field. No one's heard from him because he got in serious trouble. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It took time. But I could have spent all of my resources just worried about this and things that I cannot control. We cannot control other people. You cannot control your competitors, your employees, how they think. You can influence them. You can help them. And I tell you, if you influence them and you help them build resiliency, and you help them build those leadership skills, if you help your sales team become successful and make more sales, they're going to be loyal to you. But if you're always worried about your competitors and you're worried about what everybody else is doing, it's going to impact your bottom line. And I think forgiveness is a huge part of it, because I have consulted with so many people. I just recently I consulted with one of my clients who was in the red. I mean, they were so far in the red, but they had seen my track record and they said, I don't have that many resources, but I'm going to use what I have for you to consult with me. So the 1 month consulting contract turned into a 1 year because within a short time period, he went into the black. And we implemented processes and systems in place that was going to help his business take it to the next level. And that's the great thing about owning an FDA cleared, manufacturing facility, because we have to have all of these processes in place for FDA, like tons of paperwork. And that's really helped me to help others as well, because so many people don't have processes in place, and that's key. So they hired a marketing person, which I trained, and sales team. This company grew and started making millions of dollars, very profitable. And then suddenly something shifted and we're having a conversation. We're doing our monthly call. And he says, I'm going to let go of this person. And I said, why? He said, because I'm paying $150,000 a year and it's too much money and we don't need this person anymore because we're making millions of dollars. How much money were you making when you were in the red?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Before you hired this person, how much money did this person bring in to your organization? And how many relationships has this person built to help grow your company? Mm-hmm. And how many people are loyal to this person? Like, does that make any sense? Because what you're not looking at is how much money this person is actually bringing in. And that's exactly what happened to me, because the company that fired me, they were just looking at the money going out in commissions. They weren't looking at the money I was bringing in. Had they done that, they would never have let me go. Yep. Because once they let me go, there went the money, So a lot of business owners don't think about that. They don't think about the value that is coming into the organization because as a direct result of your employees. Mm-hmm. So, and it may not be, it could be a customer service person, or it could be, a technician, but they are directly impacting your bottom line by some processes they're implementing or things that they're doing. And just that loyalty is worth a lot. Mm-hmm. So I teach organizations how to maintain loyal employees so that they have a low turnover and they improve productivity.
Amazing. Love that. There's so much need for what exactly you're talking about and teaching on. So I love how you explain it, and you obviously help people understand what is under the hood and on the surface level of stuff when people are just looking at dollar signs. Oh, I could save money here, but you don't understand the opportunity cost, as you mentioned, of letting that employee go, because it goes much deeper than just what you're paying them in salary or commission, what have you. So as we kind of transition here towards the end of the episode, talk to us a little bit about what you have planned for the rest of the year in the future, whether it's your consulting stuff, speaking, coaching, all of those different types of things. What are you excited about right now and over the next couple of years?
Well, I'm really excited about speaking. I'm doing a lot of keynote speaking. So I have quite a few events coming up. I just finished an event with Les Brown, John Maxwell, Ed Milet. I was actually the closing speaker. So they opened up for me. So that was fun.
Amazing. Good for you.
And, so I've been doing a lot of speaking. My next speaking engagement is in New York. And then I'm going to LA. Then I'm going to London. I've also got a speaking engagement for Personality Insights in Cancun. And I'm still doing my business consulting. So I'm very excited about that because we're doing great, helping a lot of businesses become successful and help them actually create profits, because right now profitability for some companies are struggling with that. Some companies are doing great. And then also helping them maintain that, because you may be doing great for a season and then something happens. Are you prepared for if you do have a downturn like COVID? COVID even impacted our organization with a shortage of the semiconductor chips, FPG chips. For us, it was a huge struggle because even today there's difficulty in finding them. So what is your plan B? What else do you have? And are you saving resources for in case there is a downturn or in case, some unforeseen, situation that happens, what can you do? For us, we developed a new product. So there's always something that you can do to be prepared for that instead of seeing your business shutter down because of a situation beyond your control. And so it's so important to be prepared for that. And I really enjoy doing that and helping businesses grow and maintain that growth.
Love that. I'm excited to continue following your journey. I'm excited to hopefully see you and hear you speak at one of these events here in the near future. And I just appreciate you coming on the podcast here today, Marie. If you could let people know, and we'll put this in the show notes, but where can people stay connected with you, whether it's a website, social media, combination of all that stuff?
So the best way to stay in contact with me is at Resilient Expert on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on LinkedIn. I'm under Dr. Marie Cosgrove, so you can find me there. And I look forward to connecting with you guys and excited. If there's anything I can do to help anyone who's listening, I'm more than happy to help. I work with individuals as well as, nonprofits and small businesses.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the episode today, Marie. It was amazing getting to know you a little bit better, and I really appreciate your insights, advice, and all the education you did today for our audience.
Thank you. I'm honored to have been here, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I want to thank you again to the audience for tuning into today's podcast. Please subscribe, download, and leave a 5-star review, and also share our content. It goes a long way. We'll see you all next week. And remember, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed.
I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's